Alright, this is it. This is the moment that my wax strip betrayed me. And now I'm gonna tell you the story behind this very spicy situation. So I was going to this Brazilian salon, and I had to walk through these double doors, and every time I walk through those doors I feel so cool and confident, like a boss going into his meeting. And then I turn around and I see all of these women screaming and flailing, and I hear this horrible noise, and then I realize, oh yeah, I have to get waxed today. But you know what? It's another day, another dollar, right? So I go and lay down on the table and I'm like, let's do this thing. Now this is where I do my best Carrie Fisher impression, because apparently this is how people are supposed to position their bodies when they get waxed. Now I didn't think this would be too bad, because I always wax at home and I use these little strips right here which are so easy to remove. But this was different, and I could already tell that this was gonna be a problem. Okay, we're getting close. We're getting close. Oh wait, hold on. That was just a little preview of what was to come. But now it's time for the real deal. Let's get this show on the road. So the lady starts putting the wax on, and she puts on this hard plastic thing and then starts rolling it out like a burrito. And then she slaps on the other side and boom, baby, you got yourself a wax strip. And then she asks me, are you ready? And I said, well, I guess I have no choice now, do I? So I take a deep breath. I try to look brave, and I'm like, rip it off. At this point, everyone, including myself, was expecting an epic yelp, followed by the satisfying rip of the wax strip coming off in one clean piece. But this was not the case. Oh no 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 no. Instead of the wax strip coming off cleanly, it ended up sticking to my leg halfway off, like it ripped off half of my leg hair. But the strip itself stayed attached to the rest of my leg hair still on the table. And now I'm sitting there staring at this wax strip thinking, well, that's new. And the lady looks at it and she says, oh, we need to get the rest of it off. And I said, yeah, you think? At this point, I could feel the heat rising to my face. I was beet red. And then she goes to grab the wax pot and she's like, let me just warm this back up a little bit, and then we'll just get the rest of it off. I said, no 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 no. Don't touch that. That's my leg. You can't touch that. But she doesn't listen, and she grabs the wax. And she starts putting it on top of the strip that's still attached to my leg. Oh, don't do that. That's my leg. Please stop. That is insane. I don't want that. She put the wax on top of the strip and then started rolling it out again. This time it felt like a giant burrito, and I don't like burritos. And then she gave it one final slap and it was on. I couldn't help myself. I had to say something. I said, why are you putting wax on top of wax? And she said, well, we need to get the rest of it off, honey. But this wasn't the last straw yet. Oh no. No 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 no. No no no. This wasn't even the second to last straw. It was actually the fourth to last straw. After she did this wax on wax thing, she gave it one final rip and the strip came off completely. Or so I thought it did. As soon as it came off, I looked down and saw that it was actually stuck to my leg again. Only this time it was sticking to my leg from the bottom up. The bottom of the wax strip was stuck to my leg and the top of it was free. This is the moment that my wax strip betrayed me. But before I explain the most awkward 30 seconds of my life, if you've enjoyed this video so far, go ahead and hit that like button. It really helps me out, and also consider subscribing because I am trying to reach a milestone this year, and you can help me do that. Thank you guys so much. Alright, so the lady looked down and she saw that the wax strip wasn't completely off. She actually had to go back in there and grab some more wax to put on top of the strip to get the rest of it off. But this next part was the most awkward part of the whole experience, because as she is going back and forth grabbing wax, slapping it on, waiting for it to harden, pulling it off, she's talking to me non-stop, asking me how I am, how I'm doing, if this is my first time getting waxed, etc., etc. And I respond with a few words here and there, but mostly I'm in shock. I'm literally sitting there staring at this wax strip, thinking, please come off, please come off, please come off. And the entire time I'm just making these weird faces without saying anything. I honestly felt like I was in the most intense poker game of my life. And if I didn't win this hand, I was gonna lose everything. But instead of poker chips, we were using wax strips, and instead of money, we were using leg hair. Finally, she rips off the last piece, and I let out this huge sigh of relief. And then she asks me if I want to go ahead and do the rest of my legs, and I said, nope, I'm good. I think I'm gonna pass for the rest of the day. I gotta go. She looks at me confused. probably thinking that I was just being shy or something, but I quickly paid her and ran out of there as fast as I could. And once I got outside, I started laughing hysterically. It was then that I realized something very important. It was then that I realized that the reason why she kept ripping off the wax strip and putting new wax on top of it was not because she was trying to make it stick better. No, 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 no. She was actually trying to make it come off. That's why she put the wax on top of the strip. She wanted to rip it off and get the rest of my leg hair. And the reason why it kept sticking back onto my leg was because I was moving. Like every time she would start ripping the wax strip off, I would tense up and move, and then it would stick back onto my leg. In reality, I had just experienced the world's most painful waxing session ever, but in my head, I was convinced that this lady was trying to torture me, and she was trying to make this wax strip stick to my leg any way she could. You know what else was funny? When she tried to fix the situation with more wax, it was actually more painful than just ripping it off completely. I don't know if that's just how it is, but I think she applied too much wax. Because it felt like she was basically putting glue on top of my leg and then trying to stick sandpaper to it. There was one moment in particular that was so funny. After the waxer finally got all of the strip off, and she was looking at it in disbelief. And I remember sitting there staring at the wax strip with her, and neither one of us said a word. There was just this awkward silence while we both stared at the wax strip, and then she looked at me and said, "Wow, that's a lot of hair." And I said, "Yeah, you think?" And then she started laughing. And I joined in on the laughter, too. In hindsight, I should have just laid back and relaxed and let her do her job. But I think I got so caught up in the whole situation, and I was so nervous that it was gone nah hurt that I just tensed up every time she went to rip off the wax strip. And that's probably why it was so painful. The moral of the story is, tip your waxer, they deserve it. In fact, they deserve hazard pay. Alright, everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you next time.